All right. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. So we are starting now. All right. Welcome to today's class. Right. Welcome, everybody. So today we are going to be talking about NPM, Git, and GitHub. Okay. So those are the three things we are going to mainly look at. Okay. NPM, Git, and GitHub. And also, some people said they didn't understand the last class very well. The last class about the classes. Okay, so I'll throw more lights on like classes, how they are used, object-oriented programming, and then um from there we are going to start using NPM. For people that are not familiar with NPM and would like to learn it, here is your chance to do so. Okay. All right. So this is what we would cover, right? What is NPM? How to install packages using NPM? What is Git? What is GitHub? How to add, commit, and push, right? So you learn how to add your files to the staging area, how to commit them. Commit is the same thing as saving. Then when you push, right? Pushing is moving your files from your offline, your Git to GitHub, right? While pull is dragging it down from GitHub down to Git. Okay. So that's how those work. Is that okay? So let's start with NPM. So how does what's NPM, right? That's where we should even start from. Okay. So I'll come back to this very soon. So some people say there is NPM is not actually an acronym, right? While some people say NPM, the full meaning is Node Package Manager. It's used to manage packages, right? So what is a package to even start with, right? So a package is just simply a piece of or a set of NodeJs um, compatible code, right? Code you can push on Node.js, you can push it on NPM, right? And you can push the same code to or deploy the same code as a project. Now, any project that you're going to need Node to manage, right, is going to be done by NPM, the Node Package Manager, right? So whether you're writing React, you're writing Vue, you're writing backend, you're writing any of those, right? And it is it is Node that you're using to start your project, right? And the project you initialized it, or maybe you didn't initialize it, but you have a package.json file, right? That whole project is or can be called a package, right? So if we go to npm.com, if you go to npm.com, you're going to see that there are a lot of packages. Now, npm.com is a place where you can post packages, okay? You can write your own package and post them, right? So anybody can view your package, can download it, can do whatever they want to do with it. You can post packages there, right? So let's see, how do we initialize a package, right? Because without initializing a package, you can't just deploy your full project online, maybe on a server, and you expect it to run without a package manager, right? So the package manager first keeps track of whatever you're going to require for that particular project. It's going to keep a list of packages you need for that project. That's number one. It's going to help you with the package name for that particular project or for that particular package and every other detail about the package that you're trying to write. Okay. So I don't know if you guys are following me. Is there anybody that is confused with what I'm saying? What a package is, how packages work, right? Anybody confused? Anybody has any question to ask? No question. Hello, are you guys here? Can you guys hear me?
No questions.
Okay. All right. So that's the basic about package. Just know that whatever you're writing to deploy, right? Whatever you're writing on Node, right? That maybe might require you to use someone else's third party. As far as it's you're trying to add another package to your own personal, maybe to your code or to your project, right? You will need a package manager to manage those packages, right? So whatever you're doing here, whatever you're doing on Node.js is regarded as a package, right? So if you want to start a package, right, on your Node.js, just once you have Node.js, NPM comes with it. You don't install NPM separately from installing Node. Once you install Node, right, you have NPM come with it. So if you want to find out your version of Node, right, let me share my VS Code screen so that you guys would see what I'm talking about. Okay. Hope you guys can see my VS Code. Can you guys see? Hello? Hello? Can you guys see my VS Code?
Yes, we can see your VS Code.
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. All right. Now, if you want to find out if your system has, I remember I already walked you through how to install Node, right? I walked everybody about how to install that. So if you want to find out if your system has Node, just type Node, then /version, or you can type Node-V and press enter. It's going to show you the same thing. So this is the short form of this version, right? The short form is just -v. The long form is /, right? Before the version, right? Then if you want to find out if you have NPM, right? NPM -version. Then you can also do, you can also write NPM-V, and that is going to give you the version of your NPM. If you don't see a version number, right, that means you don't actually have NPM. That's if you're doing NPM -v or -v, right? Then after that, right, if you've done this already, the next thing we want to do is we want to create a package, right? Because now look at this, right? Here we just have index.js, right? I can't install anything into this index.js. For example, let's say I want to add a library to work with this index.js. How do I add that library, right? What is going to manage that library, right? So there's no way for me to manage that library here. Why? Because I just have an index.js file here, right? I have not made this made a package, right, and added this file to that package. So this file, right, is just there. I can only just execute the code I write on that file, right? But then there's nothing managing the state of this file and the packages that this file or any other file, right, is going to require. And this is just a file, it's not a project, right? So a project can be seen as like a couple of files that has a package manager that manages whatever package and files that are included in that project. Okay, so now if I want to start a package for this file, so that this file will be seen as part of a package, right? This is how I'll do it. I'll clear the screen, clear it, then I'll come and write npm init. So npm init is like saying initialize a package for this project. Okay, starts like create a package for this project. So that and every package has a package name, an entry point, right? The package name is the name of the package, right? Whatever I want to call it. The entry point is the first file that is going to be recognized once that package is executed, when you're trying to run that package. Then there are other things like the author of the package, the description of the package, the tag of the package, right? The author is the person that owns the package. If it's you put your name inside, you put your name there. The description talks about what that package is going to do, right? And then there are other informations that you're also going to fill. So now I've typed npm init and then I press enter. You see, this utility will walk you through creating a package.json file. It only covers most common items and tries to guess sensible defaults. See npm. So now there is an help manual, right, for npm. So if you type npm help init, you would see a documentation, right, to what the init method does. All right, sorry, the init command does, right? Then they also tell you some few more things that you can do with npm. When you write npm install and a package name and we press enter, you are trying to install a package to your own a package or a dependency to your own package. Now, what is a package? What is a dependency, right? So we already know that a package is what manages a project, right? A package is just that file, right? It can be a file that manages the whole project. Okay, but then what is a dependency? A dependency is a package that your project depends on. Like the name, it's dependency, so your project depends on maybe that package you're trying to install. So when you say npm install a particular package, like for example npm install express, for example, now your package depends on express, right? Depends on some maybe features about express to make it run properly. That's why you're installing it as a dependency. Your project too, when you push your project maybe on npm, your project can be a dependency to another person's code, right? So another person's code can depend on your project, right? On your package to do something. So now this asks me what is the name, my package name. I could leave it as KodeCamp, or I could just name it something else. Let's say KodeCamp KodeCamp npm. I'll just call it KodeCamp npm. The version, right? This version is also a very big topic. So that first, that's one, we are saying 1.0.0. One there means like a major change, right? If that one changes to 2, right, it means that whatever we are going to try to do on our project, whatever we've used on the version 1, right, we'll need to rewrite that one. That one there just means breaking changes. That if you're upgrading from 1 to 2, then there are changes that might break your code. Okay, then the next 0 there means that that there are changes that are added, major changes, but those changes won't break your code. So your code will still run the same way. Okay, what, like your if for example you added my project as a dependency on your own project, and then you updated from 1.0 to 1.0.0 to 1.1.0, your code will still run well, right? Then the last 0 here, right, this last one is talking about me adding maybe patches or security, let's just say minor security patches or minor updates to my code. So this is like saying minor updates. This other zero means when this zero changes, it means that there's a major update that won't break your code. But then when this one changes, right? When you have a like, let's say 1.0.0, I have 2.0.0, right? This 2 here means that there is a breaking change. So which means if you're going to update your maybe your dependency, for example, my dependency, for example, right? Then I'll need to rewrite some certain parts of my code. I don't know if it makes sense. Okay, let's take, for example, right? I am using Express for backend. Let's take an example. Express is used for backend development. I installed Express version 1.0.0, right? And I'm using it to write my API, my backend, and everything is going well. Then Express then release 1.0.1. If that 1.0.1, that's or 1.0.1 means that the changes they've made, right? Express.js have made to Express is a like really minor change, right? It won't affect my code in any way. Okay. Then if I keep using it, I keep using Express.js, and then from maybe 1.0.1, they now release another version of their Express.js that is maybe 1.1.5 or 1.1.2 or 1.1.0, for example. Now you see that is the second digit that is changed, right? So that still means that, okay, yes, I could still use their code, right? What they are trying to tell me with the version is I can still use their code, but there's a major change on the code, right? On their Express.js, but that major change is not going to break my code. But let's say from 1.0.0, 1.1.1.0, right? I now see they release another version of their package, and that version now says it's 2.0.0, for example. If I update my own the Express, right? If I update the Express from, like, let's say 1.1.0 that it was before to 2.0.0, if I run that, my package is going to break some code. Some codes are not going to work well. Why? Right? Because they've made a breaking change to that particular code. They've made a very major change that will affect the way people wrote it. So if you notice, there's view 2, there's view 3, right? So the same way you write view 2 is not the same way you write view 3. That's like kind of an example. But view 2 has view 2 point something, 2.x, 2.x.x, 2.5.2, 2.3. Whatever those whatever digit comes after the first one, right? But since it is still in version 2, anybody that is using version 2 is fine by it. But if you want to update, if you want to upgrade from version 2 to version 3, that means you have to rewrite some part of your code. Okay, so that's how versioning works. So anybody has any question? All right, no question. So let's continue. So let me just leave it at version 1.0.0. Then let's continue. A description. I'll just say KodeCamp let's say KodeCamp NPM tests, right? The entry points. Now, remember I talked about entry points. Now, the entry points is the first file, right? That is going to be recognized once you try to start the package, right? Let's say you create a script that should start the package. Once you call that script, it should start the package, for example, right? Now, once you try to start a package, there should be an entry point for that package. The entry point is the first file that package is going to execute. Then that first file can be linked to any other file. It's just like saying before you enter a house, right? You need to walk you need to walk through the main entrance or the gate. Without walking through the gate, right? You can't enter the building, or you can't, without walking through the main door of a particular building, you can't enter that building. So that's how the entry point is. So you point the entry point to the file you want it to recognize first once that package is called, right? So which is this, it's already pointing at index.js. So there's no need for me to change it. If I want to change it, I'll just write the file name I want to use. So it's pointing at index.js, it's correct. Then test command, no, shouldn't worry about test now. Git repository, right? If there's a Git repository that this file will be maybe traced to or something. For now, there's none. Keywords. So these keywords are like what I want to, in case I want to push this package to NPM, right? What can I, what if people search about my package, right? If their keyword match what I will put inside here, right? Then my code should come up. All right, my package should come up in among their search results. So I could just say KodeCamp, KodeCamp, code and camp, whatever, and what else? Anything. Then the author, of course, me. License. So this license is another big topic. There's ISC license, there's MIT license, right? So the license tells people more about the official parts of your project, right? What you can, the license can restrict people from changing things on your project, right? You can penalize people for changing things on your project if your project has a license, right? The license is like the legal rights to you stating your legal rights to what maybe can happen on this particular package. So without the license, people can do whatever they want to do with your code, right? But with a license, and this license are default open source license, right? So people can actually use your project to do whatever they want to do if you have a valid license, right? And you can rewrite the license to maybe restrict people from maybe changing some certain part of your project and the rest of those stuff. The licenses too is another very big topic. Then after that, right, it's going to ask you, is this okay? So if you look here, you see that we have a name, we have version, we have description, we have the entry point, which is this main, the script, right? No, if you try to run tests to just ask you that there is no test specified, then it will exit, right? Then remember the keywords we put KodeCamp, code, and then camp, right? Then the author, me, the license is ISC. So it's asking us, is everything okay? Yes, everything is okay. I press enter. Now watch what happens, right? We have package.json here. So if we click on package.json, what do we see? We see exactly what we're trying to set up. Now, this is everything, right? This is like kind of a manifest for our projects. For people that have done, is it Android? I think it's called manifest on Android, right? So this is our the details about the package, right? We've just created, or the projects we've created, right? So now this project it's going to be a package if we push it to NPM. But for now, let's just call it a project, right? Or you can still call it a package, anyone. Now we've done this whole thing, right? You see, let me explain this part to you now too. This script part, right, can be used to add a command to execute once your project starts, right? So look at it. If we look, let me give an example, right? Console.log console.log, sorry, console.log hello. If we run console.log, if we want to run console.log hello the normal way we've been running it, we'll just write node index and we press enter. See? So it then shows hello. Okay. But then what if we want to run the same code, but I don't want to write node hello. I want to use the package to run this index.js. How do I do that? So what I do is I'll come here, write comma, go to the next line, right? Create an object. Remember, this is JSON, right? JavaScript object notation, right? For people that don't know what JSON is, right? JSON is a popular kind of, is a file type, right? That is used, you can use you can pass JSON information from one language to another. For example, Python understands JSON, right? PHP understands JSON. Basically, almost every programming language, or let's just say every programming language understands JSON. So you can send JSON, right, from your system to maybe Python, right? And then Python can understand that JSON, right? So that's one usefulness of JSON, is that since it's understood by every language, right, it aids in communication between any language, right? And then if you backed up your project, or if you backed up something in JSON, you can use it on any language. And some databases too supports JSON. Like for example, MongoDB. You can back up your data in JSON and then upload it back to your database using the same JSON format, right? All right. So let's say I want it that when once I run dev, for example, right, it should execute this. So I'll just write here dev. Then I'll come here and the value of dev is going to be node index. Okay. Now let's try to execute this same file, but using the scripts that we just added. This is how we would do it. You would come here and you type npm run dev. If you execute it, you see what first happens is it shows you that, okay, this is the package, the package you're trying to run. Then it executes that that script that you put there, and then it shows you the results. Okay, you can use dev, you can use start, right? You can change this to start. I mainly like using start, right? So if I want to use start, you can write npm run start, right? And it's going to execute. One thing I like with start is I can ignore using run and just write npm start. At least it's straightforward. It's still going to work. You see, npm run start, npm start still executes the same thing. But apart from start, if you're using dev, right, you would always want to write npm run dev. There is build. So for people that have done front end, there's npm run build, npm run dev, npm run start, and the rest of those stuff, right? Okay, so now let's continue. Okay, so we've created this project, right? And then we can do whatever I want to do with this project. Now, if we want to add a package to this project, right? Let's say, let me think of a package now that we can add to this project. I think we should go with Moment. Okay. Now, what does Moment help us do? Let me use Moment as an example, right? So let's come back here and let me print out the date for today, right? We'd say new date. like that. And then if I come back here and I run npm start, you see that this prints out the date for today, right? But it's not printing it out in a very should I say meaningful manner, right? You see this as the date. If someone shows you this as the date, right? They say today, this is today's date and this is also the time. You look at it very well, you'll be confused, right? You might be a bit confused. What does the 640 at the end? What does the Z mean? What does the T there mean? And the rest of all those things. But then we can use moment, right, to change that. So let's see, how do we use moments? I'll share my screen soon on moments for you to see how it's being used. Okay, so let me come to npm. Just give me a few minutes. Let me go to npm.com. So you can go to npmjs.com. Okay, let me share my screen on that. Right, let me share my screen for you to see. Okay, so we are here, right? We are at npmjs.com, right? And then we want to search for the package named Moment. So Moment is a package that helps you to format your dates, right? You can format dates, you can format time. You guys used to see that 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago thing, maybe on your different social medias, or a beautifully formatted date, right? Date that makes sense, right? If you want to format the date manually, right, it's not usually that very simple to do that, right? But then with Moment, it's a breeze. It's very simple. So let's see. So you want to use Moments, you search for Moments. I think it's called Moments. Okay, this is it, right? Pass, validate, and manipulate and display dates, right? We click on Moments, right? Then when we click on Moments, okay, no need for us to search. It shows us moments.js, okay? And then if we scroll down, project status, we see keywords. So then how do we actually use the Moment, right? If you go over to their Git repository, right, you should see, or you can go to their documentation, right? If you go to their documentation, you'd see how it's being used, right, to format dates and to do whatever I want to do. But first, how do we add this to our project, right? We add it by running this. Now, if you want to install Moment, you can run it like this, right? So let's go back to VS Code. Let me share my VS Code. Where is it? Come back to VS Code. We can type npm install Moment to install that package so that we can use it, or you can just go with what they showed you there, npm I Moment. Now that I is the short form of install. So you say npm install Moment, you wait for some times while it goes and it takes that package from the from npm, and then it includes it for you. Now let's come back here, right? Come back here and see what is happening here. We've seen a new folder that we didn't create, and the name of the folder is node modules. So what exactly is happening here, right? Now, this package that we've installed, if you come back to your package.json, you'll see that package.json contains your dependency, right? So this dependency is an object, right, that contains the name and the version of all the dependencies that your project is going to need, right? So remember that Moment is a package that someone puts on npm, right? And then that Moment, now we are using it as a dependency on our project. So our project depends on on moment, right? And moment itself has dependencies, but moments dependencies we don't really care about. What we care about is our project and what our project directly depends on. So that's what package.json is going to keep. But then package log.json is going to keep more than just the dependency that your project depends on, right? It's also going to show you other information, right? Information about the dependency that that moment is also depending on, right? So package log is like it still manages your package, but it manages the package and the dependencies for the package you've installed. So, or let's say the dependencies for the dependency that you install, right? Although it might be might not be really clear now if you don't understand, but definitely you understand it. Okay. So let's not worry about package log.json, right? There's nothing you need to do here. But then let's just worry about it here. So whatever we install, right, as a dependency is going to show here. Now there are dependencies and there are dev dependencies, right? Dev dependencies are like developer, the dependencies that should take effect on your development environment, right? But let's not worry about that. Let's continue. So now this node modules folder is the folder that keeps the package that you've installed, the files and everything that has to do with the package that you install. So if we open this, right, what do you see here? You see moments and you see package log.json. Don't worry about this. If you open moments, you see that moments has its own package.json, right? And if we open moments package.json, you'll see a lot of things, contributors, keywords. It looks similar to our own, right? It has a name, it has version, it has description, homepage, it has a lot of things, right? But then it also has dev dependencies and scripts. It has a lot of things, right? See the developer dependencies that or development dependencies that Moment relies on. You see them? They are really plenty. Okay. Now we don't really need to worry about all this, right? So let's go back to our project. So how do we use moments.js? How do we use it? So remember, we've installed it. Now we need to use it in our project, and this is how you use it, right? Now at the top of your project is where you should always require or import your dependencies, right? So you write this at the top of your project. You say const moments equals to require. I can't see require. Then inside this require, you're going to write moment. So with that line of code, I have required or imported moments to this particular file. So which means at this point, I can use this particular file on this project, right? Then for me to then use that file, right, is what I'm going to do. I'll then write. So I want to format these dates with moments, and I'm not sure how it's been done. So let's look at their documentation together. So I'll share that particular screen for you guys to see. So where is it? Sorry, give me some minutes. Okay, so let me share it. So if we come down here and we click on share, right, you're going to see that. Can you guys see my screen? Right? So this is after clicking from NPM, right? from that NPM week, I clicked on documentation, right? And it took me here, right? So how do you use moments, right? So they said first, you need to require moments like this. And then after that, you write moments dot format, and then format, you pass in at this moment here, you pass in the date, and then here you pass in how you want to format the date. So let's see. Um, how is it being used? How is it being used? All right, so this is just how to use it, right? So let's see how to pass. So you can take time to go through this documentation, right? At your spare time. So look at this. You can write moments and then you pass in the dates, and then you can declare how you want that date to look. Okay. So if we come back to our VS Code, right? We can write something like this. You can say moments, then inside these brackets, we'll say new dates. Then after that, we'll come here and I want to output the month, for example, right? I just want to output the month and the day. So I'll say DOMMM. So, and I'll try to explain a little bit on what the DO and MMMM means. So let's come back here and then we run npm start. Okay. So it's still showing moments that I think I need to use dot to ISO. Is it to ISO string? Let me see. Come back here. Okay, it's an invalid date. So I think it's to date string I'm going to use. To date string. It's still showing invalid dates. Okay. So how do I do this? Let me use the date formats that they give. For example, let's say um let's say 24th of May 2020, right? And then I want it to show something like 24th, and then it shouldn't show 5, it should show May. So this MMM is like saying the long version of the months, right? So if it is September, it should write September, not SEPT. Then this one is like saying the day, but add the TH or the RD to it. So if we run NPM stats, what's really going on? What is it saying? Wait. Okay, I think this is supposed to be fit and this is supposed to be 24th instead. Okay. Well, this is strange. Um, okay, I guess I'm the one making the mistake. I'm supposed to write dot format And then in here, I'll put that so it's saying that it is not a recognized ISO format. Okay. So, but writing new dates to ISO, it's supposed to give me to ISO string is supposed to give me the correct thing. Sorry, I don't know. It's now printing out the right results. Okay. So sorry about that. I think while I was running the code, my project didn't save while I was what I'm writing here didn't save while before I ran the code. So that's why it was giving that issue. So if I come back here and I say fifth, let's say 12, 2025. Let me wait till that saves and then let me try to run this. Okay, so this is not a valid ISO recognized date. All right, I think I understand what they mean. So which means I have to pass the ISO string. So ISO is a form of date, right? A form of date you can use like globally, right? I think it's the it's globally recognized by machines as like the date that they can work with. So if you are GMT plus one, ISO can be converted to that. If you're working at if your time is maybe GMT plus two, GMT plus seven, whatever, it can actually be converted. ISO is like kind of globally recognized. So if you have now this ISO string is going to return the date and the time, right? That you can use on your code. So this new date here, right, is returning the today's date and the time exactly now, right? But then to ISO string is going to return a format that moments can actually work with. So you can read more about date. Date is another kind of data type, right? We have strings, we have numbers, we have booleans and the rest, right? But then we also have dates too as a data type. Okay, so but then with this now, I can then format the date of today. So if I clear my screen, then come back and run that, you see 31st August. If I want to, 31 August, if I put DO here and I come back and run this, wait, come back and run it. Yeah, it's now showing 31st August, not 31 August. Okay. If I wanted to give the short form of August, I'll remove two of the M's, right? And then come back here and run the code. So you see, it's now showing, okay, now it's showing the digits instead of um the word for that particular month, right? So I could put, so if I want to show the full year, I'll say YY. That's 4 Ys. Okay, this didn't save, so it just saved. So 21st August 2023, right? Then you can also add the hour, the minutes, and the seconds, right? If you want to see the time now, right? And the rest. So, but this moment was just an example, right? That I wanted to give to show you how you can install and use a particular package in your project. Okay. So with what I've said so far, is there any question? Does anybody have any question they would like to ask? Any question? All right. So in the absence of questions, any question we can then continue. Okay. So now look at this. This is how you use This is how you use a dependency, right? Now, there's another way you can install a dependency. For example, we are going to try this out very soon. If you cloned a project from Git, the projects will normally not come with node modules folder. So how do you get the node modules? How do you get the packages the person used for that project, right? Why this node modules is always comes with a whole lot of files that might slow down your trying to clone that particular repository, right? So instead of these node modules coming, you don't necessarily need to push these node modules, right? Just leave it the way it is, right? So when if you download or clone a code on let's say GitHub, right? The code that's or that package, right, that you cloned is not going to come with node modules. So if you want to install all the packages, right, all the packages that are listed on that particular dependency, after cloning it, you'll just come and write npm install. And once you press enter, it's going to go through the dependencies and the development dependencies for that particular project, and then install all of them. So it is automatically going to create a node modules folder and then install everything. So that's just writing npm install without telling it what to install. It's going to do that. But once you write npm install and then you write a package you want to use, it is going to go to the internet and install that package on your dependency. Now, how do you remove a package, right? So the same way you can put in a package, you can also remove a package, right? So if you want to remove a package, you would say npm remove moments, right? So if you watch now, right, we don't have moments here on our project because we've just removed it. Right? We don't have it anymore. So if we come back and we try to run our project, remember that index.js is still using moments. If we come back and write npm start, it's going to throw an error and it's going to tell you that it cannot find the module moment. So that means that module is missing because we've uninstalled it. All right. Does anybody have any question as we are going? Any question? No question, right? Okay. I hope you guys are there. Hello, you guys, are you still there? Okay. All right, no problem. Let's continue. So that's a whole lot about NPM, right? And then there are still other things we are going to do with NPM very soon. Okay, so gradually we are going to write a lot of things about NPM, but for today, that is what I want to show you about NPM. Now let's move to Git and GitHub. Okay, let me clear out this. Let's move to Git and GitHub. Now, remember what I talked about, what I said about Git and GitHub. Okay, that Git is a version control software and GitHub is a website that runs Git on its background. Okay. And then I remember that I mentioned I gave a comparison with how you would manage a dependency without Git if you wanted to do it manually, right? You create different versions of your file and then you know how you are going to manage the dependency. But then Git helps us manage these dependencies without cluttering our whole project with different files. Okay. Now, how do we Okay, so let me explain how let me go over how I did it before, right? I think I need to make some new files. Let's say version 1.js. Maybe for my version 1 I said console.log hi. Sorry, who is that? Please mute your mic. Please mute. Hello. Kindly mute. Okay, thank you. Okay, so here we say we just said console.log hi, right? And then let's take, for example, that this is our first version of this file, right? And then we want to make another version of this same file, right? We would come here, copy, paste, where is paste? Then we'll come here and name this, we'll name this v2, right? And then we can add whatever I want to add. Maybe we can add a function, right? We can add a function to do something, and then we can just call that maybe do something. You see, now I have two versions of the same file, right? The version 1, version 2. So in case if there is an issue with version 1 of this file, right? Sorry, if there is an issue with the version 2 of this file, I can just simply delete the version 2 of this file and come back to this version 1 and then maybe create another version 2 and continue my project, right? But with this form of version control, what if we had like 7 files in our project? So which means each time we come and we edit a file, we'll have to duplicate that file and then edit it. And then at the end of the day, you might have like 5 different versions. Let's take for example that we have 5 files, right? And these five files, you have 3 different versions of the same files, right? So that's you just having version 1, version 2, you would run into like 15 files. If you have 5 and you have 3 different versions, 5, you have version 2 for the 5 files, and you have version 3 for the 5 files. That'll be 15 files, right? But that's a bad way of managing dependencies. Okay, so let me delete what I just did now. Okay, so how do we call Git first, right? Or how do we install Git? So if you're on Windows, head over to gitforwindows.org. Gitforwindows.org is where you can install Git for Windows, right? And if you're using Linux or Mac, right? You can just do if you're using Linux, you can write sudo apt install Git. That should install Git for your MacBook, okay? And so on and so forth. On Linux, on Mac OS, I think that you can on Mac OS, I think you can use Brew. I think it's Brew you can use to install it. I'm not really sure. So let's see. Let me search on that, right? Let's see. Install. I'll soon share my screen. Install Git on, or let's just say install Git, right? Let's see the different ways to install Git. So there are, for Windows, just go to install Git, gitforwindows.org, right? But then for others, right? For others, this is what you would do. You would go to git scm/downloads. I'm pasting it on the comment section or the chat section here on this call. So git-scm.com/downloads. When once you land there, you'd see different buttons. If you want to install for Windows and you click Windows, you see Windows. If you want to install for Mac OS, you click on it. Yeah, I was correct. You use brew, right? Or you can use sudo port install git for Mac ports, but for the normal Mac users, you're pretty much good if you use brew install git, right? Then for Linux, you have different version of Linux. You have the Debian version, you have the RPM version, and the rest, right? So for the Debian stroke Ubuntu version, remember to add sudo before you run this. Sudo apt get install git, or you can still run sudo apt install git, right? For Mac OS users, remember to add sudo to sudo brew install git, right? So the same way you have NPM as a package manager, right? APT is also a package manager, right? For Linux, brew is a package. Let's not even use a package, right? Let's use an application manager. APT is an application manager for Linux. Brew is one of the application managers for Mac OS. Okay, so for Windows, if you go to Windows, I mean Git for Windows, right? .org. Git for Windows.org. It's still loading up. So you see, it brings us to install Git for Windows, right? Which is like Git bash, right? But I think now it's called Git for Windows, but it's still Git bash. We bring the awesome Git SCM to Windows, right? So that's how you can install it, right? For different users. All right. So after installing it, to be sure that it's installed properly, right? You'd come to your terminal and you type git dash 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 double dash version, and it shows you the version. Okay. You can also use the short form git dash v. Oh, git dash, I think it's a capital V. Okay, you can't use that short form on Git. You only use the dash double dash version, right? There's double dash help and there are others too. So if you want to be sure, use the double dash. And then if it doesn't show you this, right? Then that means you don't have Git. So then how do we call Git to this our project? Now, let me clear this out. Let me explain something about Git, and now take Git to be a cameraman. That's how Git is, right? If you think of what Git is doing and you think of it with the idea of a cameraman, right? When you call a cameraman, let's say a professional studio, for example, right? You call the person that takes picture there, the cameraman, to come and maybe snap you, right? Most times they come with lights and they come with maybe a kind of small stage or something like that they will come and set up, and then you have to go on that stage, and then once you climb that stage and you stand, you pose, the cameraman snaps you, right? And then he gives you the picture, right? He prints it out and gives you the picture. And then you might go back and dress again and come back on that that space, right? And then it snaps you again. So Git acts in a way like that cameraman. So now, how does Git act as this cameraman? What does Git do that makes it similar to this cameraman? When you initialize Git on your project, it's similar to calling a cameraman to come to your house, right? So this project is like your house, and Git init. Now, if you want to initialize Git, you write Git init, and then you press enter. Now, if you notice something, once we call Git init, it's telling us initialize empty Git repository in, then it tells you the location, right? That it has initialized that Git repository, which is this location. Okay. Then now what it has done is it has come with his photo studio and the jackets that I want to put your pictures. So think of it like that. So Git now has come with everything. It has created a repository, right? So your photo album is like a repository on Git, right? It has created that repository. So, and it's coming with it, but the repository is empty. It doesn't have any form of your picture yet, right? Now, when a cameraman comes, he tells you dress up, let's snap, because I've not even taken any shots yet, right? So that's the same thing Git is telling you. Git is why you're seeing this. What are you guys seeing? You guys are seeing my VS Code, right? Hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
okay. Okay. So now you see this U here. This U, after initializing Git, it appeared. This U is telling Git that it's giving us the information that Git has not yet started recognizing this fast. Like Git has not yet started tracking this file for change, right? Or Git has not tracked these files yet for change, right? Git has not tracked it, so it is just there. It is just relaxed. The files are just there, right? Now remember that we don't want to add these node modules, right? So how do you tell Git that Git should add all these files without adding node modules? Okay, how do we do that? You can add these files one by one. Okay, so now I want to take now what Git does is you add a file or a set of files to a staging area, right? And then you tell Git to take a snapshot of the state of that file. Let me repeat myself. You add a file to a staging area on Git, and then you tell Git to take snapshots of that file's state. Now, comparing it to how a cameraman acts, right? When you're done dressing, he tells you, come on to that stage. And then when you go up, the cameraman tells you to pose. And then when you pose, he now takes his camera and then he snaps you, right? He has taken a photo of you. And that photo represents that state you are at that particular time, right? And then after that, he shows you the photo, and then you can then pay him. And then if you want to snap another photo, you tell him, right? That's how Git acts. Git, when once initialized, Git comes with a staging area. The staging area is the area you add files that you want Git to take snapshots of, right? And now, what is this snapshot, right? The snapshot is just kind of a representation of the state of that file at that particular time, right? So now, we've initialized Git on this file. How do we add a file to a staging area? Let's say I want to add index.js to the staging area so that I can then tell Git to take a snapshot of that file's state, right? I'll now say Git add index.js, and I press enter, right? Now you see that this has changed from U to A, That A means that now Git has picked that file from its untracked state, because that U means it is not tracked yet. If we come and hover here, it shows untracked. So these two files now are not untracked, but now this one is it has been added to the staging area. So that staging area now, the file is there. Now we want to take a snapshot of the files, this particular state of index.js. So how do we tell Git to do that? To do that, we'll now type git commit. And the difference between the cameraman and Git now is that each time that you make a commit to Git, you have to make that commit with a message. The message is just going to represent what you can use to maybe remember what you did on that particular file, right? So I could just say, I could just write moments. So that minus M there means message. And every time that you commit a file to Git, you must always add a message, right? If you don't add it, it might take you to Vim, and then you start struggling there to add the message, right? So it says git commit minus M. I'll just say moments used to format a date. So when once I see this commits, maybe another time I know that, okay, this is what I did on this particular file at that time. Now if I press enter, you notice something? That file doesn't have any U or doesn't have any A, right? So now it's only that file that I have added, right? If I want to add package.json or packagelog.json, I will do exactly the same thing. I'll type git add package.json. But what if we had like 20 files, right? We want to be adding those files one by one, like till we finish adding all of them. That will take a lot of time, right? So, and also remember that we don't want to add node modules, okay? We want to ignore node modules anytime that I want to add all other files. So how do we do that? You come here, right click, and you create a new file. You call that file .git ignore. Okay, git ignore, then you create it. Now, what's this git ignore, right, is used to list out the files and the folders that you don't want Git to add, right? It's just like your cameraman coming, and you tell him, maybe you point at someone that is not a member of your family and be like, don't snap this guy. Don't allow this guy to come on stage and snap picture with us, right? We want to snap our picture. We don't want him to be involved in our picture, right? So this git ignore is like a blacklist for your packages, so, or for what you don't want Git to track. So if I add node underscore modules there and it saves, if we try to add node modules now, if we try to add every other file, right, node modules will not be among. Okay, okay, I made a mistake with this spelling. Are you guys here at all? Git ignore.
Yes, we are with you.
And you guys didn't see that I made a typo on this particular. I said git ignore. Okay. Now, if you notice, now we've added node modules to git ignore, and you see that it's ignoring that particular node modules now, right? So now how do we add these two at the same time? If we want to add every other file to the staging area, this is what we'll write. We'll say git add, then we'll just put dot. Then we press enter. So now this file has been added, right? But node modules has not been added because we've explicitly said that we are ignoring node modules. So this git ignore file, and we list what we want to ignore here, right? If we want to ignore package.json, you just put it under there. But once, if you just say package.json here, see, package.json there. Okay, we've already added it to the staging area. So let me just delete that. Let's leave it like that. So now we only have, it's only node modules that we are ignoring, right? So let's come here. Okay, we finished adding, right? The next thing is to commit. So we now say git commit minus m. I could just say added added package and package log. Added package and package log. Okay, so we've done that. We've added package. So see what it did, right? It gives us more information. It says we've created git ignore, we've created package log, and we've created package .json, right? So we are good to go. Yay. So now how do we push this online? Okay. Now, this is what I want us to do. I'll delete this whole thing and I'm going to add my name first, right? And then just add your name too. So you clone this project, you add your name, and then you push it back. Okay. So I'm going to push this online, and then you're going to do something with it. Okay. So I'd say I'll just write console.log I just leave that way, come back here, add everything, commit here. I'll just say added a log method with my name or with my first name, right? So how do I push this? How do I push it online? Okay. How do I push what I've done online? Right? So now that's where you will need a Git account, right? So you can head over to github.com, and then once you head over to github.com, I know I'm not sharing my, you guys can't see my screen, but once you head over to github.com, right? You just click on add new repository. Just, you'll see a new button there. Let me share my screen for you guys to see that. Okay, so I just went to github.com, right? And then you're seeing all this, but then you're seeing the new button, right? Just click on new, right? Because you want to add a new repository. I'll just call this repository KodeCamp. I'll just call it KodeCamp, right? The description is optional, so it's not really necessary, right? Then I could just write my name, Okay, I'll just say list of students, right? Then after this, since we want to push from Git to this particular repository that we are creating, don't initialize this repository with a README file. Don't do it, right? And since we already have a git ignore offline, no need for you to do this. Since we also have a license offline, no need for you to add this license, right? There's no need. Just allow this place as it is. Then now this public is if you want anybody that comes to your profile, your GitHub profile, to see your repository, you leave it as public. If you put it as private, then it's only you that will be able to see it. No other person can see it, okay? After that, you come here and click on create repository. Okay, do you guys follow up to that extent?
Yeah.
Okay, so now once this creates the repository, it's going to give you different different recommendations on how you should push what you have offline online. Like here now, it's telling you if you have a project, right, but you didn't initialize Git on that particular project, right, then you should follow this procedure, right? It's trying to tell you, okay, create a repository on command line. That if you did not create a repository, right? And then there's one thing we didn't do. We didn't create a readme.md. Now, what is this readme? This readme is used as a documentation to tell the users about how they can use it. You can think of it as a documentation, right? To how users can actually use your package or your project, right? So I can come here, create a new file. I'll call it readme. Sorry, in capital letters, I'll say readme.md, right? And readme.md uses what is called markdown, right? Remember, HTML is a markup language. We also have markdown languages, right? Or we have markdown itself. So markdown is kind of it's kind of the opposite of markup language, right? So, but now here, if you want to denote a capital letter, sorry, something that is supposed to be maybe a header, right? You know that in HTML you would say h1, right? But here you use a single hash. Then you can say KodeCamp, right? Hash, then KodeCamp. And then there always have to be a new line after what you've written, right? Then I can do something like maybe I can write a description of this project. So I could do something like this, hash description. Okay, and I have to space it out. Then I'll now come and say, I could add a description, right? I could then say, you need to clone add your name, commit, and push. Something of that nature, right? Then I'll come back here. I'll say git add, then readme.md. Now, people might ask, how did I make that autocomplete? I just wrote R, and there's no other file or folder here that starts with R. So after writing R, the next thing is to press tab. So it's going to automatically
I
complete
can't
it
see
for
your
me.
VS Code though.
Then git add, then I'll then write git commit.
Hello?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me take it back to my VS Code. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, I've shared my VS Code now. Can you guys see it?
Yes, yes.
You guys can see my VS Code now, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I can.
So this is what I just did. I created a readme.md, right? And then I added some information about the readme.md. Then now I've added it to the staging area and I want to commit. So I could say commit -m, -n, then I would say readme added, right? So I've added that readme. Now, I hope you guys understand up to this point what I've done here. Everything I've done here, the commands I've run, right?
Yes.
Is there anybody that doesn't follow? Hello? Everybody follows, right?
Yes. I understand
Okay.
it.
Now, there is this concept of Git, right? Called branching. Now, it's one very simple concept about Git and GitHub, right? Which states that you can actually have different, okay, so you can have branches on Git, but let's leave branching for another day, right? Okay, so I was talking about how you push the code online, right? So remember that, let me share let me go back to the browser. Okay, remember this whole thing, git add, then git branch. Now, this git add is like saying we want to add a remote. Remember that any repository that is offline is referred to as your local repository, while the remote repository is the repository that is online. What is a repository? A repository is just simply a secret place where GitHub has saved all the snapshots of your documents. That's a repository, is just that place where it saves the snapshots. You don't really necessarily need to like go into the repository and then see maybe the snapshots and the rest of those things. Git automatically handles whatever has to do with the snapshot of your file. So you just need to worry about maybe committing your files, pushing it online, pushing it and getting it offline, cloning and the rest. Okay. But just know that everything that has to do with the photo album of your file, like the state of your file, is being stored in that repository. Okay. Now, let me share my entire screen so you guys would see what I'm doing. Okay. So I would run this. I'll just need to come here, copy. Remember, there's this saying that programming is half copying and pasting, but I don't think that's true. But we are doing it now. You come copy each of those and paste, right? So the first one we copy this, we are trying to say, what we are trying to tell Git is, you see, the remote where we want to be pushing our file or pulling from should be this link here, which is the link to the repository of our file, which is on the link to the repository we want to push online, right? So you want to push whatever you have to that repository you want to pull and everything. Then this other line of code now is saying we want to rename the main branch, right? We want to name that master branch. We want to rename it to being main, not master. So now if you look now, we don't have master branch again. Rather, we have main branch. Okay. Now, if you want to verify the remote that you are like the repository, the online repository that you've added as a repository you want to push or pull, you can write git remote -v and press enter. If you look at this now, right, you see that we are once we've added, we run this code, right? This is what happens somewhere. We are saying we are pushing, we are fetching and pushing to the same link, right? We are pushing and pulling from this same, or fetching and pushing to this same, from this same link or this same repository, right? And we are giving that repository name, we are giving that particular repository the name of origin, right? So which means you can add another branch you want to push this same code to, right? And you can give it another name. So I can say git remote add Victor, then I say http victor.this /whatever .codecamp.git, whatever it's. Then now if we do that, right, we would see that we would, if we come and run git remote -v, we'll see that we'll have origin with this value, and we'll see another remote name vic, right, vic, and then it will have its own link. So now how do we push online, right? This is the last script we are going to run for this. So you see it contains git push origin main, but you see this -u, that -u just means that where we are pushing to is the upstream. That's what the -u just means there. It means that we are pushing to upstream. It's used mainly when it's your first time pushing to a particular branch, right? Or putting to a particular repository. So if we paste that there and we press enter, what do we see? Okay, it's saying permission to this denied by. Okay, I know why this is happening. I know why that is happening. So let me do this. Let me use my own Git. All right, so it's not allowing me to push because that's not where I'm supposed to be pushing from, right? The account I used on Git is pointing elsewhere. It's not pointing to that particular account. So let me log in with my main account so that we can then push that code to my main account. Okay. We have the I'm waiting for that authenticator to come up. I haven't received any authentication code. What is going on? Okay, so let's come back to Git, right? Let's come back to VS Code, right? While I figure that out. So the authentication code is just for security purposes. It's not anything really serious, right? It's just for security purposes. You guys already know that. Okay, but then let's continue. So let me try to explain what is happening here, right? So this Git is actually pointing to a different account, right? A different Git account, right? While I'm trying to push this code to a different Git account. So that is not going to work because they don't match, right? They are different accounts, so they are not going to match. So that's why it's giving me that error, and I'm trying to fix it. Okay. Okay. So I've been able to fix that. Let me share my screen again. Let me share my entire screen again. All right, so let me create that with my repository. I'll just call this KodeCamp, right? And let me just leave all these things. Click on create repository, it's public. And then what I just need to do is I need to copy this code, right? Copy it, and then paste it here so that it's going to point at another origin. It's saying origin or remote already exists, right? So I think I could say, I think that should be remove. So this is how to remove an already existing repository, remote repository that you're pointing to. So if I write git remote -v and press enter, you see that there is no value here again. So I can paste the new one and press enter, and it works out. Then after that, I can come back and say git push origin upstream of main, right? So if I come and paste that here, press enter, you see what is going on? It has actually pushed online, right? It has pushed online. If we come back here and refresh, here is what we would get. So we've been able to push that repository from being offline, right? We've been able to push it online. So does anybody have any question on how I did this? Anybody still confused about how I pushed everything online? How I created, committed, and pushed what I did online?
Please, I really appreciate you can take it one more time, sir. Thank you.
Okay. When you say I should take it one more time, what do I go back to showing how to push the files online or the repository online?
Yes.
All right. I'm mute.
Thank you.
All right. So he's saying I should do that one more time, right? So interestingly, let me delete that remote, right? So I would say git git remote remove origin. Remember that we said we are adding an origin, right? And then we are that origin should point to, that origin should be the name of this particular place we are pointing to, right? So I've removed that origin, right? And then I'll come back here and I'll delete this repository, right? So start everything again from the beginning. So to delete, you come to settings. When you come to settings, you scroll to the bottom, you see delete this repository, right? You click on it. I want to delete this repository. Yes, I want to delete this repository. Yeah, I understand the effects. So before you delete it, you must type out what you have there, right? So you type that out or copy and paste, anyone. It's always good to type it out so that while you're typing, you be sure that you want to actually delete what you want to delete. Okay. Then after that, after doing what you've done, right? Deleting, you can come back here to your repositories and click new. But once you click new, it would ask you, don't worry about repository template, right? Just put the name of your template. KodeCamp repo test. Okay. Then after that, you can add a description, right? If you don't like, but remember that since we already have the repository offline, right? We don't need to add any of this. We don't need to add a README. We don't need to add a license. Remember that when we're creating, okay, don't worry about the license, right? When we don't need to add any of this, the git ignore, the license, the readme.md, right? Because we already added this readme and this git ignore, right? Don't really worry about this license for now. Then you click on create a repository. Well, once you create the repository, it's going to give you some certain information, right? I can just simply copy all this command and paste it in my terminal, but I want to run it one by one for you to see. So first of all, you want to tell, now I would want to point, I would point to this particular repository, right? I'll copy that, but I will not name it origin. I want to name it another name. So I would say, I would name it with my own name. So I would say Claire here, then I'll come and say git remote add, because add is used to declare the new repository, the new link to the repository you want to point to. But first, you need to give that remote you want to point to a name, right? Remember, I said remote is used to refer to the repository that is online, right? Then offline, you have a local repository. Okay, so remember those two terms. So someone will tell you, I'm pushing to your remote repository, which means he's pushing to your, maybe your repository that is online. Or someone can ask you, did you pull to your local repository? Or when once just someone asks you, did you pull my code? The person is trying to ask you, did you pull from the remote, which is online, to your offline repository? Okay, so I want to add a remote now, so which is where I want to push and pull. So I'll say git remote add, but I want to use my name. So I'll say git remote add Victor. Then I'll now say space, and then I'll put the link to where I want to be pushing to. After that, I press enter. So you see git remote add Victor, and then that's link. So then how do I now push? Let's come back here. Remember that we've already renamed this branch, right, from master to main. So what I need to do is I just need to come and run this code. But remember, I'm not using origin again. So I'll now come and say git push git push dash u Victor main, and it push it. If you want to check the remote repository that I pushed to, right, you can just write git remote dash v. So this one is going to this like saying give me the verbose list for the remotes I am pushing to. So if you click that, you see that the name of the remote is Victor and the link to that remote is this particular remote, and we can fetch and push from that same remote. So if we come back here and refresh, we are going to see KodeCamp. You see, now the README file, remember the README file is somewhat special. It's kind of a documentation. So once you push your code online, it's going to show the README and the contents of the README. But every other file that is not a README file is just going to list them out. But the README is already showing its contents, right? And it serves as a documentation for people that are going to use come to your repository and try to use it. Okay. Do you guys follow up to this point? Is there anybody that is confused? Anybody confused? Any question?
There is no question from me, from my side. There's no question from my side.
Okay, cool. No problem. Now, remember that you can see different versions of your file, right? You can see different versions. If we come here and we click here to see the number of commits we made, you see that we made 4 commits. We made 4 commits here. If you click on this first commit, you see that we only had 1 file, right? Remember that the index.js file was the file we added first, right? So that commit only has a snapshot of this index.js file. If we go back and we come and click on the second commit, you'll see that the second commit has that we did not have. So now this is like before and after, before and after. Before on this git ignore file, before we didn't even have the git ignore file, right? But after committing, we had the git ignore file, and then we added node modules to that git ignore file. Abi? Then here, right, the package.json file, we didn't add it that first time. So that's why this place is blank, right? That's before this commit. This was how it was. There was no package.json file added, right? But after the commit, we added the package.json, and this is its content. You see this plus here? This plus is showing that these are the things we've added to that. Then if you come back here and then you click on the third commit, you see it's showing that in the third commit that our index.js, we had all this written, and you see that we've written minus at the side. The GitHub automatically adds minus on the side. So that means before this file was committed, right, in the previous commits, all this was what was on that file. But then after the commit, this is only the line of code we had there. So that's why you see plus here, console.log Victor, right? Then if you come to the recently added commits, which we did, now it's showing you that in this particular commit, right, before this commit, we didn't have a readme.md. But now we have a readme.md. You see? So everything about the version of your file is showing. Okay? And remember now that I mentioned something about branch. If we come back here and click on this main, you see that the number of branches we only have the main branch, right? And that's the default branch. Default in the sense that if you just push, right? If you just do git push, it's going to just push to this particular main branch, right? You can make any branch your default branch. You can also rename this branch to whatever you want to rename it to. Okay. So let's take, for example, I have this code here, right? And then I want somebody else maybe I want someone to be able to take this particular code. Maybe a friend of mine, I want him to collaborate on my project, and then he should be able to maybe do something on this project, right? I'll just tell him, right? If you want to maybe collaborate on my project, all right, sorry, you want to use my project, right? But you don't want to contribute to my project, but you want to copy this whole thing and use for your own benefit, right? The simple thing you can just do is you can copy this link and send to him and tell him to clone, right? So I've copied this link. Let's assume I'm that person, right? I want to clone this particular repository so that I can use it, right? I'm not the one that, let's take, and for an instance that I was not the one that created this repository, but someone said I should clone this repository to make use of it, right? After maybe the person comes and copies this link and send to me, or I come here and copy the link on my own, I'll come to my VS or my terminal, right? And then I'll just type git clone, and then I'll paste the link to that particular repository, the one I copied. So this is automatically going to give me a copy of that repository that I have just tried to clone, right? So cloning is like duplicating, right? You can use it to duplicate a particular repository so that you can have it at your end. Okay, I hope everyone, we are on the same page. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there any question?
No, no, no.
So it's simple for you guys to follow up, right?
I understand GitHub and Git and GitHub actually. So that's why.
Okay, okay. All right. So, but apart from you, is there any other person that doesn't understand Git and GitHub? Or
Sorry, me, I was late for the class. I've not really gotten everything, but I just hope you drop the link soon so I can go through it.
okay. All right. Okay. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So that is the basics of Git and GitHub. Okay. So from this class, what you've learned how to pull, you've learned how to push, you've learned how to commit, you've learned how to add, initialize a Git repository, you've learned how to initialize a project, an NPM project, you've learned how to install dependencies, you've learned how to use the dependencies that you've installed. Okay. Then apart from all this, right, there are other things you can use Git to do, right? Git can be used for collaboration. Okay. Now, there are different ways you can use Git for collaboration. Okay. And this is kind of maybe a more, should I say advanced, or let's say it's not a complicated topic, but it might be a little bit advanced, right? So you can contribute to someone's project using pull requests, right? So what is a pull request? A pull request is just simply a request you're making to someone to ask them to accept your proposal for a change on their project. Okay. And then a pull request can be accepted or can be rejected, right? It's just similar to how you have friend requests on social media. You can send a friend request to someone and the person can decide to accept your friend request or reject it. That's the same way you have a pull request. So a pull request is just saying, oh, I've made changes to your code. I have I've done one or two things to change your code, right? But then I want you to please accept my change. Would you accept my change, right? And then if the person at the other end, right, accepts that change, right? The owner of the project accepts that change that you've made, then your code will be matched with that particular person's code. Okay. Now, there are still other things. There's what is called merge conflict, right? So when you're collaborating on a project and two people are working on the same line of code or the same portion of code, right? And then those two people push and someone is trying to maybe deploy that code or something, and then, or let's say I'm working on a portion of code, you're working on the same portion of code, and you push. And before I can push to my own portion of the code, I have to first pull your own change for that code, right? Once I pull, Git is going to see that I have made changes to a portion of code, and that same portion of code you've made changes to it. So Git is going to ask, which of these changes do I accept, or do you accept? Will you accept the incoming change from the other person, or will you accept your own current change to be there, or do you want to keep both the incoming change and the current change? So then you can then choose. Those things are like kind of more advanced topics, and I think we are going to treat them one of these days, right? But from what I've done so far, GitHub, NPM, and its likes, and how to use it. If there is no question, then that's actually my time for today, right? So thank you guys.
Mr. Victor,
Yeah.
please, I want to suggest if you can just go through the tags you gave us, the CLI tags.
Okay.
Although I've done mine now and I have been graded. So I just
Okay.
want us to discuss on it. Maybe if you have any free time.
Okay, to discuss on the tax, but I won't do it, right? Because I'm sure there are some people that still haven't done it.
I haven't done it. Okay.
Yeah, or
Okay.
they've done it and they've not been
I've not done mine yet because
not
I've not
passed.
seen the tax on my LMS.
Okay. No problem. No problem.
Oh, did you do the first one, the let const and var?
You mean
Yes,
me?
yes, I did that one.
You did that
I
one?
did that one. Yes, I've been graded, but I didn't. As at the last time I checked, I was not promoted yet.
Okay, it depends. Did you add more information to the let const and var task? Because that's one of the things that might not give you a very good grade to move to the next stage.
I had 100 in the grading.
So I hope you know that you have to score above that. You need to score either 75 or above to be promoted. If you don't reach the 75,
yes, in fact, in the very first one, I had 100/100 in that tax.
Okay, but the second task you've not seen the
Yes,
the task. Okay, no
it's not
problem.
reflected.
So I'm going to get on that and then see how we can solve it. Okay.
Okay.
So,
please, also, when I'm going to upload this video so I can go through it, please.
okay, so this video will be uploaded within today, right? I am not the person that uploads the video. Okay. So that's why I can't really tell you a particular time that the video is going to be live.
Okay.
So, but it should be within today, right? Or tomorrow. It's not going to pass those 2 days, right? So just check once it's in the evening, just check back. You're going to see this video.
And we don't used to have the link in the chat.
Okay, I think I used to drop the link before, but I stopped doing it. Okay, so once I'll be checking on the videos, then once it drops, I'll just copy the link and paste on the channel so you guys can watch it.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. So I hope there's no question. Nobody has any question, right?
Until I watch the video, if I have any, I'll get to you.
Okay, all right, no problem. So should I still go over that the classes? Is there anybody that wants me to go over class and object-oriented programming, or we should just end it?
I
Ah,
really miss this class. So seriously.
Mr. Victor, I don't know if someone can actually message you personally on Discord. Is that possible? Or is that
Yes.
allowed?
Yes, you can, but then if it has to do with a question on maybe
No.
programming and the
Something
rest.
aside,
Okay, something aside, you can actually inbox me, it's allowed.
okay.
But then
Okay.
the reason why we say you shouldn't inbox your trainers directly is because the question you might ask, someone else might also want to ask the same question, right? If 20
Yes,
people have the same question and then 20 people are there inboxing me, right? Sending me messages, right, on Discord, it would be difficult for me to answer all at once. But if one person asks the question and I answer, someone else that wants to ask the same question is going to see it, right? And also see the answer to that question. So it makes life easier.
yes.
Mm.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm glad you guys, everybody is following, right? The next class, I guess the next class since we've known the basics of NPM, right? We'll still talk about NPM, right? But we are not going to talk about it in terms of how to install a package or any of those things. We'll see how we can publish our own packages, right? And then we would also talk about more things on Git, more other topics on Git. Okay.
All right.
All right. So thanks a lot
Thank you
for
very much.
coming to the class, right? If you have any question, you can always drop it on the Discord channel, right?
All right. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay. You're welcome. So see you on next week, Tuesday. All right. Bye-bye.